Well, I guess I was fortunate, if that's what you call fortunate, to travel mostly by night. The way my flights were scheduled coming out of California and elsewhere. When I came back from Vietnam, I arrived on my parents' doorstep about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was, of course, greeted by my mother, and my dad was glad to see me, and sister, and it was like I had never left, I guess. The 13 months that I was gone, things have, I didn't think they changed that much, but they really had. But my parents asked me, well, now what are you going to do that you're home? And I said, well, for one thing, I'm going to sleep and take a good hot bath, which I haven't had in quite a while. But I didn't see a whole lot of protesters. The people in the air terminals, they just more or less looked at you and looked the other way and didn't hassle you any and didn't say much to you, and you just diddy-bopped on through the air terminal and went from one flight to the other and came home. No fanfare, no welcome, just back in the world.
And contrary to what Ed said, mine was just, we had to fly during the day and we had to fly in uniform. And I can remember landing back in Travis Air Force Base, coming back from Vietnam, and then we got bussed up to San Francisco International to fly home. And heard some disparaging remarks, some looks. I was spit at but not spit on. And I came back feeling very proud to have served my country. And at the same time, I didn't feel the warmth when I got back. Not that I expected a big fanfare, but the time that I returned from Vietnam, with the protesting going on against the war, it was like you were expected to return, kind of just blend back into civilian life, and you might be thanked, maybe not. But I was just glad to be home, and I was still proud to have done what I did.
When I arrived in Seattle, Washington, when coming home, we disembarked from the plane, and of course everybody was in their uniform, and it was a 100% military flight coming back. There was the chain link fence around the perimeter of the airport, and we seen a bunch of people over there, probably about 100 yards away from where we were, and they were holding a bunch of signs, and we thought maybe there was some sort of a political dignitary or something that these folks were welcoming on another flight. And as we got closer to the chain link fence going into the terminal, we could hear the shouts and the name calling and that type of thing, and we really didn't associate that with something that we were a part of or were supposed to have been a part of. And it didn't really hit me until I discharged from the military, and because if you flew in a military uniform, you could fly on a less expensive airfare. When I flew from Seattle, Washington, after being discharged to Chicago, I was on the airplane. There was about 7 or 8 total people on the airplane, and I think there was probably 5 or 6 stewardesses. One of them actually come over and sat down by me and started talking to me, and that's when I really understood and realized what those people at the airport were doing. They were protesting the war in Vietnam, and didn't know what the terminology or why they were calling people baby killers. And she kind of explained everything to me. And it made me, I was coming back feeling very proud to have been able to serve my country. And coming home and seeing that type of thing going on and activity taking place in the United States, that I kept myself quiet once I got home and got out of uniform. Didn't say too much about what I had been doing for the last 4 years or where I had been, unless I run into another person that I knew was a Vietnam veteran. So overall, my welcome home experience outside of my family was absolutely horrific. It was not good at all.
I personally did not have any serious issues upon returning to the world, as we called it back in the 70s. I flew into Oakland, and we had what I remember is a very tasty steak dinner upon returning to the United States. Stayed in Oakland for a couple days to get Class A uniforms, and then on my flight home back to Chicago, I did not experience any particular issues.